Good morning. It's Gary Hewitt, and we're gonna talk about launches this morning. And we're gonna start with rocket ships, but this applies to business. That's where I'm taking this. So, with a rocket ship, if you've ever watched a rocket ship launch, and they usually have a fantastic shot of the engines just as they light up, and you see all these flames shooting out, and to create that much thrust, they burn huge amounts of fuel, right? You can just imagine all of that fuel flowing down there to get those flames going, and you watch, and the thing just starts to creep up, right? So initially it's sitting there, and the engines are just burning all that fuel, and then it moves its first inch, and then it moves its first foot, and then several feet, and so on. And of course, it's getting faster. It's accelerating as it goes, but you burn the most fuel in those first few seconds, right? Because the weight of the ship and is so heavy that it takes all of this fuel just to get it moving. And if you change the payload, like what you're launching into space or wherever you're going, if you add so much as a few ounces of payload, then the amount of fuel, you add gallons upon gallons upon gallons of fuel in order to compensate for that. Because for every ounce, excuse me, if you add a gallon of fuel, then you probably add another couple of gallons of fuel to launch that gallon of fuel. Like it's must be a really interesting equation to see. Anyway, what happens is, as it accelerates, though, you're using less energy to travel more distance. And once it actually gets into space, which is only 120 miles up, a lot of people, you can drive to the next city. That's how close space actually is. Once it gets there, then the air is thinner, and you're not fighting gravity. You're actually using gravity, and a small amount of fuel will make a big difference in your momentum. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that this applies to business launches as well. And I think this is where a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, because they start stuff, right? And every time you start, it's like that first inch of the launch, and you're expending a huge amount of fuel just to get that little bit. And if you don't continue, if you don't have consistency, if you don't continue, then you're never going to get to that stage where it gets easier. I don't know that it ever gets easy, but it definitely gets easier than that initial launch phase. And that's where consistency and vision and kind of knowing where you're going, and the commitment to getting there really kind of kick in. And if you see this in social media, like your first follower is agonizing. Your 1 millionth follower, not so much, right? You pick up, you may pick up 10,000 or 20. If you got 1 million followers, you may pick up 10,000 followers just with a single posting. And so that's the message for today is to understand that if you're in that stage where you're expending a lot of energy, it's just the initial phase. That's what it takes to get yourself up, to get yourself above the noise, to get yourself to the point where it does become easier. And you got to stay focused, you got to stay committed, and you got to push through, and not get distracted by shiny things, right? Because that's one of the sayings they say, don't get distracted by shiny things, because then you're going to go and burn a whole bunch of more fuel on this new shiny thing and get no results for it. So I don't know who needed to hear that, but there you go. And hopefully it gets to the right people and makes a little bit of sense to them and helps them on their way. So if that's you, then I'm glad I found you. All right, take care.